Greetings, everybody. As a student of history, I spent many years going down the rabbit hole. I learned that the Arabs were the first to enslave the Africans, and then the Europeans followed. And in 2020, we can safely say, Sitia. Sitia. For those of you who don't understand that, here it is. But during the time of African redemption, there was a group of people called the Maroons. They decided they were not going to take no check, that their freedom was going to come even if they died. And so they stood up and they faced the British Army and they won. The British Army surrendered to the Maroons. And you'll hear the story that the Maroons signed treaty and that they did some kind of thing that people want to look at now to scorn and scoff at the Maroons. But what you see now is that the same people, the same African people within the same space, many of them cannot be trusted. See, I'm sure when the Maroons were asking them to run away with them and to go form their own community, many of them would rather remain as slaves. To this very day, you see it. The Maroons escaped and they stood up and they fought. And when it was time for them to sign their treaty, they did grant them sovereignty to remain free and to have their own community run by their own. Now, what this means is that as former enslaved people, when the freedom came, and especially when it was fought for by Haiti and by the Maroons in Jamaica, when that freedom was granted, you find that the Maroons had their own society. It is the only way they could have, kept their traditions. The only way they could have gotten rid of the ones who enslaved them. Now, in America, the thing is, people from time to time fought for their freedom one way or the other, whether it was through, revolution that required, guns, or if it was marching in the street. Revolution is revolution, regardless of the form that it takes. The difference is with the Maroons and people like Martin Luther King, for example, is once they got their freedom, they started to fight to immerse themselves back with the ones who kept them in bondage. In America, they wanted to be equal to the very ones who enslaved them. When you look at the First Nation people, they have formed their own sovereignty within the same country once they got their freedom. And all other nation, whatever oppression they've had, they have sought after freedom and sovereignty. But the typical Jamaican does not want sovereignty. You know what they want, and we don't have to repeat that all the time. In this time, it is very easy for you to get to the point where you're saying, I want to be out here and championing the cause of the Jamaican or the African. But that's a mistake. That's a huge mistake because many of these people don't want freedom. Many of these Africans, they don't want freedom. They want love. They want acceptance. They want to be in the middle of things. They want to compete and, shake hands and rub knobs with certain ones. Only a small group of people will escape. And it's the ones with a certain mindset. Martin Luther King said, His dream was to walk hand in hand. His dream was to walk hand in hand. The Maroons said, our dream is to be left alone. Now, I just saw a video emerge last night with Babylon going into the Maroon town. And if you think that is a coincidence, you better think again. Because these Maroons, they're problematic. At least people see them as such. And this was a test to see exactly how much battalion must be formed to enter that space to deal with these Maroons. But something is telling me that these ones have not abandoned the traditions of Mama Africa. And these ones have the cemetery, have the, surroundings filled with their ancestors. And those of you who don't want to hear this, just back off. This is not for you. In Jamaica, a very small group of people will be ready. Very small set of people. Some years ago, I saw it up in the hills. And when you look down in the city, there was fire. And as we were up in the hills, tending and preserving and getting ready for that day, there was cries way down in the valley. We're up in the hills and cries down in the city. The ancestors know you only when you know them. And they will never abandon you at the last minute. And so it doesn't matter what folk come. It doesn't matter how big the army. They're not stronger or greater than our forebears. The ones who freed the people in Haiti, who freed our people in Jamaica, they just can't get over that. That spirit still remains in Jamaica. It's still there. And still ready. Still ready. I can't insult them. I was having a conversation with a loved one last night, and she was explaining to me that one of the reasons why African people are being punished is because we refuse to stop, doing witchcraft. I listened to her for a while until she made a mistake. And then it's like their spirit flew out of me, and I had to fix her up real good. Because if we understood and know the truth of what we are facing, we would know that we need them now more than ever. You abandoned them, but I haven't. You're ashamed of them, but I'm not. You know what they say to me? And I know they're ready. They're ready. And the mistake these ones are making is to underestimate the people, the Maroon people, the true Maroons. I can hear the bells ringing over there. But that bell cannot distinguish the sound of the drums. I hear those drums beating. They're beating. I see the flames. I see the fire getting bigger. But they don't see what I see. Many will be lost because they don't have the protection of the ancestors. Many will succumb and bow and accept whatever is offered to them under disguise. But they will not gain protection because you can't make deals with the devil. You sign a deal with the devil, after you've signed it, he's going to turn around and he's going to cast you in hell. I'm on the side of my ancestors. I roll with the Maroons. Yeah. Some of you can't be saved. Some of you should be thrown overboard. But I leave that up to the ancestors. Stay blessed, everyone.